Mark Twain once said, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog."
He's coming around, 10 seconds, 9 seconds, Bobby Plump.
Butler has no timeouts.
Dribbling, 6 seconds, clock going down.
So they would hope that Zubek makes this.
Not gonna try. It's Hayward pulling it down. Getting around Zubek. At midcourt, launches the shot.
You know, people say in 49 states, it's just basketball. But this is Indiana. I see where they're coming from. It's just different. 20 years ago, it was really different. Every Friday night, high school gyms across the state were completely packed. In those packed gyms, memories were made and legends were born. Starting as early as 1954 with Bobby Plump and the Milan Indians. This is where our story begins.
So we're sitting there having some iced tea, and I said, "Dad, could I ask you for an allowance?" And he said, "Well, sure, son." I said, "Oh, great. Well, could I have one?" He said, "No." I said, "You could ask me for an allowance." I didn't say I was going to give it to you. And everybody grew up with no money. I mean, we never had running water. First shower I took was when I played basketball. We never had electricity till I was 13 years old. We had the old lamps, and then when we got the Aladdin lamp, I thought, man, look, it lights this place up.
Coming from humble beginnings in a close-knit community in Milan, Indiana, Bobby Plump grew to become one of the most prominent high school basketball players in the state. In 1953 of his junior year, he helped lead the Milan Indians to the state Final Four and earned the honor of Mr. Basketball his senior year. Despite all of his achievements, it was what happened in the 1954 state championship game that would not only change his life forever, but have a lasting impact on Indiana basketball.
We stole the ball with 48 seconds to go, and the score's tied 30-30. And I stood at midcourt until 18 seconds to go. We called timeout, and in the huddle, Woody said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." He says, and if you follow the coach's instructions, everything turns out well, right? Woody says, "Here's what we're going to do. Kraft, you take it out and throw it to Bob," me. He says, "Bob, you just dribble around until there are 5 or 6 seconds to go. Then you can drive all the way, stop and shoot a jump shot. Just try to shoot when there's 3 or 4 seconds left, so if you miss it, we might be able to tip it in."
He's dribbling around, 10 seconds, 9 seconds, Bobby Plump dribbling, 6 seconds, clock going down, jump, shoots from the circle, scores! Now 1 second, the game's over! Bobby wins!
I never really wanted to become a writer. I was interested in making movies, and I really don't even consider myself a writer, even though I have written 25 screenplays. I consider myself a filmmaker.
Angelo Pizzo. Not limiting himself to only being a screenwriter, Pizzo helped to produce several movies as well. Released in 1993, he helped to create one of the most treasured sports movies of all time, Rudy. It was earlier in his career when he decided to bring together a cast that included eventual 2-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman, along with Dennis Hopper, Barbara Hershey, and a basketball team composed of first-time actors to create what would later become the #1 sports movie of all time, ranked by ESPN. In 1986, the Hemdale Production Company released the movie Hoosiers.
The inspiration to make the movie Hoosiers came from the desire to tell the story of my past, in a sense. Growing up in Indiana, experiencing these tiny small town gyms and the intense passion and importance of basketball to these small high schools. There was something unique about it, and basketball in Indiana is synonymous for a lot of people outside the state, and no one had ever made a movie about that. So I thought that this was a kind of a way in to do that.
It's a good thing I wasn't a director, because I read that original script and I thought, man, this isn't going to be very good. And that was really my first reaction.
What we were struggling with in terms of getting the movie released was our distributor, Orion, did not want to give us a national release. So we were stuck with the proposition of releasing the film in Indiana, and if it did well, then they would give us a national release. Well, it did well, so but they didn't open it with a big splash. I think our first screenings were only about 400 or 500 theaters, and the actual marketing advertisement dollars were fairly low. But we got some good reviews, and we got some, I guess, a groundswell of support. And it was a movie that, when it came out that first weekend, it didn't really go down very much over a course of almost 2 months. I mean, the movie business was very different back then, but they kept on adding theaters, in fact. So we knew we had a movie that had some staying power, just because of the number of theaters it stayed in.
Before the premiere here in Indianapolis, Angelo asked our team to come out to a sneak preview, 2 or 3 days before the premiere. And I was to write an article for the Indianapolis Star about what I thought of the movie. That alone was ironic. As I said, English was my foreign language. So they give you this little pad, and I had the pad and I had a pen, and I wrote 2 sentences and became so engrossed in the movie I forgot about writing anything else, so I had to write the article from memory. And after it was over, Angelo called me aside and said, "Bob, what do you think?" I said, "Angelo, I loved it." I said, I cried, I laughed, and after it was over, I just felt good.
Well, I think there's a natural connection between the two teams, the Milan team and the Butler team of 2010, because I think the parallels of the small schools and all the way to the championship. And
both teams were underdogs. I think going into the season, if you would have said that Butler was going to be in the Final Four, I think no one would have believed you. I think the same thing with Milan. I think no one would have believed you that they would have won a state championship. So I think a little bit of the underdog feel, and nobody really expected them to be as successful as they were.
In 2010, the mid-major, number 5 seed, Butler Bulldogs shocked the world by winning their way into the NCAA National Championship game against the number 1 seed, Duke Blue Devils. As the athletic director at Butler, Barry Collier was able to experience firsthand the shot that almost changed college basketball forever, while Emerson Campen, being a player at the time, had one of the best views out of anybody sitting on the bench. With 3.6 seconds left and Duke clinging to a 2-point lead, Duke's Brian Zubek was at the foul line to shoot his second, of 2 free throws.
Yes, I remember the last free throw of the game from Zubek for Duke. Just a few seconds left, and the intentional miss, which surprised me a little bit.
Butler has no timeouts.
So they would hope that Zubek makes this.
Not going to try.
Gordon came up with a rebound and took off on the dribble and got a great screen from Matt Howard around center court.
You know, I saw Matt set a good screen. I think it knocked the guy over.
It's Hayward pulling it down, getting around Zubek.
And then as Gordon's shot was in the air, I think everybody thought it was going in. And from the angle that I was at, it looked like it was going in.
At midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in! Almost went in, and Duke is the king of the dance.
And it just missed, so.
It was very, very close, and I can remember the high hopes I had on its way to the rim, but it wasn't meant to be.
Now that all the smoke is gone, lights out, and the battle's finally won. Give me a lights out. Victory lights us up. Ours. Lights us up. History so long, so long. In search of victory.
Obviously, it would have been great for Butler to be a national champion again. You know, it was 1928 when they were the national champion back then. But as far as his future and as far as Butler's future was concerned, I think it was solidified just for the fact that they were there, they were in the game, they did have a chance to win it. And I think that's proved throughout the years because they came back the next year and then they've had success ever since then.
Butler's run in the 2010 tournament certainly revived in terms of public, in terms of the media, a lot of attention with Hoosiers. There was one special report or another article. I know I did a bunch of them myself. And of course, the connection is it's a small school and they played in the same arena where Milan won the state championship. So there were a lot of echoes from the past.
Clearly, that would have been the capstone on a fantastic year and a national championship if the ball had gone in. So it would have changed from that standpoint, but we'd probably also still be talking about one of the, if not the greatest games in basketball, much less college basketball, or a championship.
You know, I think we take pride in all the seasons, but we definitely take pride in the ones that we were successful in 2010 and in 2011. I think we take pride in that. And, you know, as a student here, as an athlete here, as a guy that played on the team, you know, I take pride in that to this day.
There's a tradition in tournament play to not talk about the next step until you climb the one in front of you. I'm sure going to the state finals is beyond your wildest dreams, so let's just keep it right there.
You need diversification. I'm like my father-in-law. I'd rather wear out than rust out.
And remember what got you here. Focus on the fundamentals. We've gone over time and time again. And most important, don't get caught up thinking about winning or losing this game. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners. Okay? All right!
Got it down. Here
Let's
comes
go!
Hayward drives. Oh, the hammer! Oh, baby, this crowd explodes.
This is how you get it done right here. Just dunk it on people. Mom and Dad love it. Butler Nation loves it. Jazz Nation loves it even more.
Hayward Nation loves it. He's got a smile still going. Grinning, why not?
Now that all the smoke is gone.